We were hopeful to start conducting workshops in-house at this conference room. Recording check. There. Oh, that's not a new one. I can't. I don't think the other stuff. Madam Vice Chair, I believe the chair stated she would not be able to attend today's meeting. And Commissioner Takenko is running late. Up to the board if you wish to proceed, we do have a quorum. Otherwise, we can wait a few minutes for Commissioner.
I think for the interest of time, we can get started. If that's okay. So, so if it's okay, we can call this meeting to order on January 31st, 12:33 p.m. If we can, Jesse, if I can, she do a roll call.
Of course. Chairwoman Shandon Murphy is absent. Vice Chairwoman Commissioner Marilyn Warhoff is present. Commissioner Christopher Cruz, present. Commissioner Dr. Robert Jack, he's present, and Commissioner Daphne Young Guerrero. Thank you. And Commissioner Meg Takenko is not present, but advised that she is on the way. Madam Chair, with 4 out of 6 commissioners present, we do have a.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the approval of minutes. Is there any discussion from any of the commission members? And if not, could I get a member to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Okay, so moving on to the executive director's report. Or, I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item 3 on our agenda. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to unanimously. Moving on to item 3, our executive director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I begin the report, I just want to say for the record that Attorney Hyten has also joined us via Zoom. Should be presenting cases later on in the agenda. To start, and the director's report provided in your packets, I want to give an update on ethics training. We had conducted a total of 3 live workshops since launching the FY23 calendar. The dates we conducted ethics training is on December 28th, January 3rd, and January 27th. the number of the participants who completed these 3 workshops, as well as those that completed the online self-paced trainings depicted in the table below. So you'll see there in December, we had 42 complete the live workshop, 34 online, total of 76. And for January, we had 104 complete the live workshop, 111 complete the online, total of 215. If we maintain those numbers, we're on target to reach our commission goal of 3,000 employees trained before the end of the calendar year. We're pleased to announce that we're organizing a tailored workshop for appointed boards and commission members. So we have that scheduled for Friday, February 3rd. A total of 30 participants have already registered for this in-person workshop, and we hope to conduct it in our conference room. If there are any commissioners that are due, we'll work with each of you respectively to identify the dates of renewal. I think we can advise you what options remain available for you to complete your ethics training. If there are no further discussion on the ethics training update, I'd like to move on to B, which is a courtesy meeting with DOA Division of Accounts. We received notice from various departments that payment for prior ethics training was processed and received by DOA, yet remained unprocessed with our accounts. So this directive came from DOA for everything received in the final quarter of FY22 was on hold. And that we estimate to be around $54,000 that has been that is due to the commission, yet not yet loaded into the respective account. So we plan to coordinate a meeting with the deputy financial manager and the DOA comptroller just to discuss this particular issue and find out what might be a timeline. We did hear that this stems from a financial management software issue. I believe that since the fiscal year closed, if they were to touch any action with FY22, it messes their software. So the numbers might reflect correctly today and then incorrectly the next day. And it doesn't just affect our account number, it affects the system-wide for everything in FY22. So they essentially close anything to be processed so that they can keep in place the data that's reflected currently, which is correct in their books. Recruitment of an administrative assistant. So following the commission's December meeting, we concluded that the immediate recruitment of an administrative assistant was necessary to support operational success of the commission. Concurrence of the commission is sought to retain a part-time admin assistant through a limited term appointment not to exceed 1 year. And we'll provide an update to the commission if this initial employment period and method proves sufficient to meet our operational gap, or whether further recommendations are warranted. And so I just want, it's not a formal motion, but if there are no objections, we were going to proceed with that in lieu of recruiting ethics investigator 1. I think we slated to recruit 2, but we're going to replace 1 with an admin assistant. Okay, thank you.
No objection.
Thank you. Ethics Commissioner appointment. So after months of work to fill the final vacant seat on the commission, we received notice that the governor intends to appoint Ms. Tracy Guerrero, Director of Operations at AK Guam. I did have an opportunity to meet with Ms. Guerrero, and I believe her financial background, professional background rather, particularly the time that she worked for the Office of Governmental Accountability for the U.S. government, will be a further complement to the existing members on the commission. So we'll work with Ms. Guerrero through the appointment process and the confirmation process, and we hope that that 7th member will be befitting to the commission to continue with their business.
When are we looking at Jesse, if all goes, you know, the process, of course, I understand what that process is, but like
Yes,
ideally, when do we think we could get her on board?
Absolutely, that's an excellent question. And we were anticipating as soon as possible, but then we were advised that if an appointment were to occur, say, in the month of February, then that term would be only until the unexpired term ends, which is May 2023. So if the appointment is in February and through the legislative process, they don't get confirmed to say April, which is more realistic, they serve 1 month, but then they burn one of the 2 terms they're limited to.
Ah,
They have to go through the process again.
got it.
So we're thinking to wait out, at least we can initiate the process. And the packet can go through today for the term to start in the May 2023 for a full 4-year term.
That
But,
sounds.
Absolutely, and sorry to interject, I think we do know for certain that there are 3 other members existing that need to go through the process again. Commissioner Meg expires in May, and Commissioner Cruz expired and will need to be resubmitted. So we're awaiting confirmation if that packet have been resent. And then Commissioner Daphne was part of that unexpired term, so we believe hers to expire in May 23. So will be very popular down in the legislature this term. At least 4 that we know of.
At least I'll be in good company.
Yes, yes,
I'm having second thoughts.
please don't. We really appreciate your voice here at the commission. Yes, we're really excited about that. I know that has been looked at and is a point that the commission raised with me to find a 7th member to give the full complement. So I'm really glad that one candidate did receive but not, and we'll be going through the process. So hopefully by May 23, we'll have a full complement of commissioners. The next item is on the invitation for bid number GETHC 00123. We're approaching the conclusion of a full year with the lease with Prospector Retail Concepts. So ahead of the lease period, continuing, we prepared our annual invitation for bid, which opens up the lease contract for next year, April 23 to April 24. So all interested vendors in Pagani and Tuning areas. The bid will run until February 15th when the bid opening conference is scheduled, and more information will be shared with the commission at its February meeting. And then you have the account balance summary reflected. Reflected there. Of course, you have our 2021 carryover fund balance, the current fiscal year fund balance, our revenue account, and then our American Rescue Plan account balance. And then this also does not reflect $28,034, which was collected but not yet loaded into the revenue account. And this amount is separate from the $54,000 reflected in the prior mention of our report that was processed by the departments but not yet uploaded by them.
Again, I'm sorry, this is separate.
Yes. And Madam Chair, I'm open to any questions, but that will conclude my director's report.
Thank you. Anyone have questions? For our executive director's report?
I just have a comment. I'm glad the online workshop is well received and had attendance more than the live workshop.
Yes. And I do want to send kudos. It was one department, the Port Authority of Guam would be 99% of that number. So their whole department is subscribed to this process. And I think we can get more on the bandwagon to take it with that. I think one thing that I did not reflect here, but I just wanted to mention because it was discussed is Hi, Commissioner. So for the record, Commissioner Meg is now present. We've been reaching out to the newly sworn in Attorney General. And so a formal letter was drafted and sent to his office. And so we are awaiting response to our letter dated January 22nd. And then I think that's it for courtesy meetings. We have several lawmakers that have made appointments to set up their ethics training. So we're hopeful we're going to get through all of them.
No other questions for the executive director's report. We can move on to old business.
And Madam Chair, no objection. I believe that the budget will be affected by the actions we take under new business.
Okay,
So if I can request a motion to entertain new business first and
Okay.
then go back to old business.
Can I get a motion to move on to the business first?
I'll make a motion to move on to.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Right.
All opposed or anyone opposed? No, okay, unanimously approved to move forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To begin with item A, which is approval of the Ethics Investigation and Compliance Officer Position Series. So I'm pleased to share that we did receive the response from the Department of Administration Personnel Division as to the Hay methodology study done on the, or what used to be 5, but turned into 4 positions that will formally include an ethics investigator and compliance officer series in the classified service of the government of Guam. So in compliance with 4GCA, with regards to establishing of new positions, I've prepared the complete petition for the commission's review. We complied with statute, which includes sharing a background, a fiscal note, position descriptions, and the pay assigned to it. And we also have evidence to share, which includes the posting of the petition on both our website and the government notices website. And then we did send out an email to the general media as required by law. And all of this was placed on our website and to the respective media parties at least 11 days before the commission is reviewing this petition, therefore compliant with law code. The request now is for the commission to adopt resolution 2023-001 relative to approving the following positions: the ethics investigator and compliance officer 1, the ethics investigator and compliance officer 2, the senior ethics investigator and compliance officer, and the chief ethics investigator and compliance officer. And the resolution in draft form is provided to the commission, which I can read. I did amend it based on what you have in your packet. I just made some changes to the resolve section to be rather clear. But if you'd like, Madam Chair, I can read it, or I could just allow the commissioners to read on their own, whichever is the preference.
Okay, I think we'll just go through it.
Well, for the record, I'd like it to be read.
Sure, of course. So resolution 23-001 is relative to approving the creation of positions for ethics investigation and compliance officer 1, ethics investigation compliance officer 2, senior ethics investigation compliance officer, and the chief ethics investigation and compliance officer. Whereas the Guam Ethics Commission was established in Chapter 15, Title 4 Guam Code annotated, primarily to adjudicate complaints filed against government officials for violating the ethical code of conduct. And whereas in May 2021, members of the 36th Guam Legislature heard and debated Bill 85-36 relative to affirming the independence of the Guam Ethics Commission. The bill passed unanimously by the body and was later enacted as Public Law 3628 by Governor Lou Youngworth. And whereas in January 2022, when setting their strategic goals for the year, the commission found that it desired to establish a new series of technical and professional positions in the classified service of the government of Guam to meet its statutory mandates. And whereas after a thorough research of like entities across the country, the ethics investigation and compliance officers seemed most aligned with the work performed by the commission. And whereas a review of the Competitive Wage Act 2014 classification plan revealed that no similar position to the ethics investigation and compliance officer. Apologies, lost my. Compliance officer are currently established. These positions are unique and require that candidates maintain a high degree of confidentiality, discretion, and judgment. Now, therefore, be it resolved. The commission affirms the majority vote of members present at a publicly announced open meeting, its adoption of resolution 2023-001, formally approving the petition to establish the ethics investigation and compliance officer series, namely ethics investigation compliance officer 1, ethics investigation and compliance officer 2, senior ethics investigation and compliance officer, and Chief Ethics Investigation Compliance Officer. And be it further resolved that the commission adopts the proposed minimum and maximum range of compensation in accordance with the Hay methodology set by the Department of Administration as follows. Ethics Investigation and Compliance Officer 1 is under the General Pay Plan, letter M. Ethics Investigation and Compliance Officer 2 is the General Pay Plan, letter N. Senior Ethics Investigation and Compliance Officers under the General Pay Plan, letter O. And the Chief Ethics Investigation and Compliance Officer is under the General Pay Plan, letter R. And be it further resolved that the chairperson of the Guam Ethics Commission certify and attest to the adoption hereof, and that copies of the same be transmitted to the Honorable Teresa Interlochen, Speaker of the Mina 37 na Legislatura en Guam, the Honorable Amanda L. Shelton, Senator and Legislative Secretary, Mina 37 na Legislatura en Guam, and Mr. Edward Byrne, Director of the Department of Administration, as required by 4 GCA Section 6303D, passed and adopted by the Guam Ethics Commission on this 31st day of January 2023.
So what you read would be a little different from what we have.
That second resolve.
Yeah.
that Listed out.
Yes.
So this is a draft. Any comments or feedback or? Are we calling for any recommendations?
The draft rec is, I believe, the best version that can be moved and approved. And then this will be signed by the chairperson for the commission and then routed to the Guam legislature. And to provide insight on the process, once we package the resolution and the petition showing we've complied with the statute, then the commission waits 30 days before we can announce said positions for recruitment.
Okay.
So this will just move us along
Okay.
the process.
One question, are all government employees considered officials?
In which respect, Dr.
In this, the first whereas statement. Educate complaints
I
filed
believe.
against government officials.
That's a great question. We can include an amendment to say officials and employees. But generally, officials might already include, I'm not a practicing attorney, but we can, yeah, that's a great point. We can
Because they're the
say,
investigating employee.
yes.
Correct.
I think generally, in the public, there's an understanding that when you mean a government official could mean either appointed, elected, or an employee. But if we wish to add the terms like and employees to be very clear that the scope of the commission spans elected, appointed officials plus employees, that's a minor amendment that I don't think would have any issue.
I'd even take it further and just look at our enabling statute, right, and see how that's worded,
Okay,
right? Because I think this comes right
yes,
from that.
so yes.
So take a look at the enabling statute. Just word it exactly like that, and then I think we'd be okay, right, Dr. Jack, if that's, yeah. Because you, I mean, you referenced the statute right there
Correct.
anyway, so. That's a good.
Yes. So the terminology of employees really is what's utilized. Because the definition of employee includes elected and appointed officials. So that would, I think, to cover all bases, we could just simply state officials and employees. But it's a minor adjustment. I think the main issue would be the resolve, because that would be the actions the commission's taking.
So I move to adopt resolution number 2023-001, subject to edits as noted.
I'll second that. All in favor?
I,
Okay, so we now so moved. Any opposed? No. That's dramatic. Yeah.
Thank you, commissioners. And we'll move on to item E, the executive director and staff annual performance evaluation and pay adjustment. So provided in your packet, it is an overview of all the responses received by each commissioner. Thank you to the 5 that were able to submit their responses. We've been able to tally each response and you can compare how you rated for a particular section to your colleagues. And then the average score you'll find located at the immediate right. Then at the bottom, we do have the total for all categories. And out of a possible score of 5, the average was 4.5 out of 5. And then the recommendations were compiled, duly noted on attendance of COCO. We'll make sure that that happens next with this upcoming conference. And then you do see presented 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the salary scale for my pay grade. And so the commission can use that as a reference point when deciding if it pleases the commission to give the director a pay adjustment and what pay to award. Thank you all for the feedback. I think that gave really good guidance on the upcoming year. Some key takeaways for myself is other than the COCO, which we'll attend. That haunted me throughout the document. But the
I don't even remember.
some of the things that was raised by the commission was, yes, Commissioner.
Did I make that
And that just,
suggestion?
I think 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Oh, yeah.
Well, but I do have to say that it wasn't until I attended that.
Yes, yes, yes.
It was amazing. I mean, and again, it's not just the information or the speakers, but it is the people that you meet in the room and stuff. And really just some of the ideas that we could do as an organization, as a commission, just even some of the public relations stuff that we could put out, everything else. So I just think, I mean, and once you go, you'll get on the same, you'll drink the Kool-Aid with us. You'll see, it was very, very beneficial. Yeah, I wasn't sure what I was going into, but it was great, but you'll get that much more out of it. Because you're into it day to day,
Yes,
so.
for sure.
I don't think I docked any points for that, even though I might have mentioned it once or twice.
I don't think I got points either, but
Yeah.
But some other key takeaways that were addressed in the police report was adding the 7th member, making sure that that was addressed. And then strategic planning of our goals for long-term rather than just the immediate term. So those we can definitely account for. Another one which actually aligned with our goals for this year was outreach events to the departments and agencies. So thank you, Commissioner Meg. In fact, we have talked about that and we are going to prepare a schedule to do such.
So if I just may ask, maybe my colleagues who are more familiar with the performance evaluation. Or what's required of us at this point is to adopt the evaluation and the scoring, is that what is?
Well, since it's already placed down by each respective member, there's no formal adoption and evaluation.
Oh,
And maybe that's what it is.
it's already done.
We're required by law to post that on the website so
okay.
that this becomes public information. If anyone wanted to review my evaluation and what the board had, and as far as comments for success and improvements, that will be made available.
Okay.
I think the question that we took last year that is presented again to the commission is, does the commission desire to give the director a pay adjustment? Either you keep the salary the same or you warrant a pay adjustment and then the scales presented there for you to consider.
Now, what I'm not as familiar with, and this is where I want to kind of look at our HR person is, I mean, you do have a pay scale.
Yeah.
And you don't want to pay them, to their top, so there's no, no overgrowth, whatever.
Right.
What's kind of normal, what's kind of given out, and so that's where I would look.
Right.
And I want to kind of,
So, I mean, and as I was going through the performance appraisal as well, right, I just, we had no issues, it looks like, with your performance, and I would say that you performed above average for sure. So, coming from a human resource perspective, I was like, I don't want Jesse to think that, I'm still really docking his points, but 3 is acceptable performance. 3 means that you're doing exactly as you should, but I think your performance here as reflected from my colleagues shows that you are well above, the expectation of performance.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, yeah,
Certainly.
and I do remember last year we had discussed the steps, but I think you had given us a little bit more guidance in terms of what is typical,
Yes,
right?
and I can reshare that
Yeah.
if it supports the commission.
Right,
The pay plan allows for steps 1 through 18. I didn't present all 18 steps to the commission. I just took what is the current rate and then 4 steps preceding that.
okay,
And then, there is pay beyond number 4, but it just wasn't shared with the commission because I didn't
right,
know if that would have been pertinent.
um,
Last year, I think the commission decided 2 steps. And that, again, there is no standard or example we could follow from any other entity. Typically, when a board evaluates a director, it's at the discretion, and so there are, of course, a number of factors considered: availability of budget, performance of the director, opportunity for growth, and then the commission can then set. You can also compare the salary of your director against other directors across the government to see if the compensation is equitable or below what is currently in place.
and I mean, I'm just going by what I see in the market, right? And generally what the private sector is doing. So I just calculated like the percentage increases that these steps would indicate. So it's like a 3%, 7%, 12%, and 15% at level 4. Right now, I know from the private sector, we have accounted for inflation this year, especially. So we have given usually a higher than normal increase. So our average increase is about 4 to 5% on the private sector side. So that would align with like at least step 2 or something to that effect, right? So, and I think given Jesse's performance, I would definitely be leaning towards
2,
a higher, yeah, right, right,
because that's what I was looking at also. Yeah.
okay. So I think it does align with where we're looking at in terms of inflation, accounting for that. And consistent with what we did last year.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit into the budget,
It does, yes. And all the amounts reflected for the budget.
okay.
Is there a standard cost of living increase for all salaries in government or no?
I don't know about that.
There hasn't, so we do have a cost of living adjustment for retirees,
I got you.
but not for active employees. And, unfortunately, part of the drawback for being unclassified service is we're exempt from merit bonuses. Merit bonus is a provision afforded to classified employees where they receive an outstanding evaluation. They get a 3.5% pay bonus. Unfortunately, for unclassified, you really only have the benefit of the salary the commission lends to you. So just wanted to share that.
What would 18 be? Just curious. Just gone up to 18. I'm really.
Of course, I can share that with you. 18 on the general pay plan is $134,281.
So again,
Just
Right.
given how comfortable this conversation must be for the rest. Maybe we could.
Well, last year, I think the chair had asked, was that enough for you? And I still am so nervous that someone's gonna ask me this in this conversation. I appreciate anything that the commission determines prudent and also best reflects my performance. So I leave that in your capable hands to decide what that is.
you know, one way, can you go back to what you said about the average?
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's kind of what I look at, 7% is above average.
7% definitely an above average increase, from what I have seen in the market. For inflation increases, we've done as high as like 10%. But it depends on the industry, it depends on the business as well.
And that's 10% for someone with an average evaluation or
Yeah.
outstanding evaluation?
Pretty much an average.
For average evaluation, what about somebody with an outstanding evaluation?
If they take that into consideration, then it's usually like a little bit higher than that, yeah. So it depends.
12%.
I don't know, I don't know what you guys are practicing for.
No, that sounds like.
Sounds about right, yeah. So, I would say no less than 2,
Right,
right? Yeah.
I think it's a 2 or 3.
And if it,
Fingers down.
I guess that's their focus on.
if it eases the conversation, I still remain relatively behind the rest of the directors.
That was
Is
my
that
next question.
Yeah, that's-
Was how
that's
do we
what we wanted.
compare?
What is it?
So so an agency head of large departments typically get paid well over $115,000.
Okay,
So for example, the chief of staff at the governor's office is $115,000. We do find directors serving commissions dependent on the scope of work. Senora, the director for the Guam Election Commission with a full scope across the island. She's making over $100,000 in her current capacity.
And I'm gonna say, we're not to that level at all. I mean, she has a staff of 15 or 10 or, whatever,
Right.
so, that's what I'm
just
saying. I
go
think.
above the role. Okay.
Similarly sized, what's the
Yeah.
closest similarly sized, scope of work who we serve? I mean, obviously. we,
Yeah.
What, I know there's no cookie cutter,
Right.
but
Yes,
who
yes.
would, what agency comparison,
Right.
would be the closest to the Ethics Commission?
There's none to compare because most are compared based on the work involved, so the constituent base. So the commission is island-wide across the
Yeah,
entire government.
okay.
Okay,
Where we only have limited staff due to the budget constraints, but not because we didn't desire to fill the staff. So Civil Service Commission similarly has the scope across all of its employees and they adjudicate cases against adverse actions and like. The director is paid above $90,000, but I haven't done my research on their exact pay today. But any adjustment, I can take careful consideration and. Obviously, I do want to see that this is reflective of the performance. We've been able to grow as well our resources and expanded the number of employees that are taking the training. And the team is growing as well. So those.
yeah, you've definitely hit your targets, for sure.
Good with the
You prefer it
the level 2 block. Interviews with the level 2.
Yeah. I'm looking for closer to a 3.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm aligned with you, Rick.
I'm looking more at a 3.
I mean, just based on their rating, factors that Commissioner Daphne has brought up, but also I think just the fast track expectations in just such a short amount of time. You know, that we've had to. The
right.
commission, in particular spearheaded by, you know, our director. I think that's not a comparison to others that have the resources and had everything set up for, so I think it's unique in that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we do going forward is to take what the recommendations were this year, so in next year, it's a little bit easier, so even if we rank him at, you know, 4.5 again next year or higher. But we also look at the things that we asked him to do,
Correct.
and if he's basically done all those things, then that's easy also.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember what we necessarily said last year that we wanted to do more of.
Right.
Or anything like that, but I don't remember last year us being as good at giving the feedback and everything else. I mean, it was still kind of new, right? So I think that would be the only other thing is next year when we do this, provide us what you've done and then like the feedback. Addressing these issues down here.
Right.
Because they're really, like you said, most of them are repetitive. It's like go to Kogel. But that's repetitive. So it isn't like, you know, I mean, that's really one, these 5 are one, you know, but just kind of, but be able to come back to us and let us know that.
And so these goals here that we have established, right? I cannot recall if the commission actually played a part in establishing.
Yes,
the goals.
yes.
We did, right?
Yes.
So in the same manner, let's establish those goals for 2023 and build in some metrics or measurements. Like, how do we know that success has been achieved, right? What does success look like for each of these goals? Because we do have, you know, these goals are pretty straightforward, but then they don't really have anything not super measurable.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
To say whether or not you've achieved or whether you've exceeded, but I would definitely, I have no issues at all with your performance. I think you've been doing an amazing job, but I think that would be more helpful in this discussion, so it's more fact-based
Okay,
and data-driven,
yes.
rather than like, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I feel a 3.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah,
I think if I could reiterate what the commissioners are asking. If we said, you know, train
Correct.
employees, then we would say. Training 2,000 employees
Yes.
would be equivalent to a 2 score.
Yeah.
2,500 is a 3 score. 2,000.
Something to that effect, but like, but I think definitely let's identify what are the goals for this year, and then maybe we can deliberate, like, what does success look like? What does achievement of these goals look like as successful?
Okay.
We don't necessarily have to define overachieving,
Yeah.
but
Right.
at least we know this is met. If this is met, then that is you doing your job. If you have exceeded that, then we can demonstrate that during the performance appraisal process, right?
Right, because this is pretty standard,
Yeah,
right? So
correct.
that's the standard, this is the subjective. of
Yes.
course. Okay. But this is more focused, whatever.
Right.
I'm gonna go ahead and post 3. That's.
I mean, I agree with that.
Do we need to make a motion for this?
Yes,
Jesse?
you would say, a motion to move the executive, just look through this a second. To move the executive director's pay
Okay.
to ET7, which is $95,235 per annum.
So based on our feedback and collective discussion, can I get a motion to move our ED's pay grade and scale to ET7? Equally $95,235 per year.
I'll, your motion, I'll
I-
second it.
I'm asking for a motion.
Oh, okay, I'm going to give you the motion exactly what you said, so I don't ever repeat it. ED moving it to ET7 at 95,235. Okay.
And Dr. Jack seconds, all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, I believe we have a unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, and we'll.
Thank
see to
you.
those changes.
Thank you.
The next is on the commission staff, so I'm very pleased that we've concluded the first full year for ethics program coordinator Ruben Bogart. he received, he received high remarks upon my evaluation of his performance, always striving not just to do what is asked, but to go beyond that. And aligned with the recent approval of the ethics investigator and compliance officer series, I did want to have a salary adjustment to reflect the position that we are hoping they will fit once we announce for those positions. So the request that I have is a motion to move Ruben Bagarin from pay grade A1 to pay grade N1 at $45,014.
So moved.
We got it.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? This has been unanimous.
Thank you. I think I might have missed it, but I'm not sure if DOA will be finicky. Just for the record, can we state when the pay raise is effective?
when is it usually?
We talked with payroll, you can make it effective today if you'd like.
that's fine. It'd be, the
Is it-
adjustment is effective,
Or is it like, yeah, is it like, is it
if
like the February 1 or January 31? Is there a difference?
There will be, since we're already starting the pay period yesterday, but we're
Oh, I see.
ineligible for back pay. We'll at least get the 1 day less of a full pay period
Okay.
if it's effective today. So if I might offer, the motion is to set the pay adjustments approved at today's meeting for both the director and Ruben Bagarin, effective January 31st, 2023.
so moved.
Second,
Done.
All in favor?
Aye. Any opposed?
No, okay, unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on the agenda, thank you, commissioners. I feel a lot better now that that was, this was through. I need to be reminded what's next. Okay, election of commission officers. So the full year has now concluded and Chairwoman Murphy and Vice Chairwoman Borja, thank you both so much for your leadership. And in effect with the commission's SOPs, it is time now to take nominations and election of officers. So I know that the vice chair had requested if I might serve as a temporary presiding officer just to facilitate the election, and then I can turn it over to the newly conducted chair. So if we can get a motion to identify the director as a temporary presiding officer for the purpose of electing officers.
Your motion.
second.
To put it in third for 10 minutes.
Yes.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any approved, disapproved?
can we just have the vice chair call me voting, please? It's just as Robert's rules.
Mm.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
Any opposed?
oh, any opposed? Oh, you mean that? Okay, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That one.
Any
Got it.
opposed? No, okay. Unanimously agreed to have you facilitate this election.
And I just want to put it out there, right,
Yes.
for the record before we go. Attorney Joe had a little bit of a comment on that about us really maintaining decorum, right?
Yes.
Here, so I think we have to really buckle it down, because we set the example,
Correct.
right?
Okay.
So,
Makes
Thank
sense.
you. So following that motion, I did want to pose the first question to the body is whether you desire to elect officers through secret ballot or through open motion.
So in my experience, I think the four of us OGs here, right, we're the OGs. It was, I was telling Jesse earlier that it was open and I wanted to understand what the format would be this time. So I think we'll just leave it open for our, I guess, discretion, what you guys feel more comfortable with, through ballot or just through open nominations.
I think open nomination.
Open, okay.
Thank you. So on the position of chairperson, does the interim presiding officer hear a nomination for chairperson for the Guam Ethics Commission? This is your opportunity to share your nomination.
Oh, well, I would nominate Marilyn as vice. Because I know, my understanding is Shannon with some things going on with her. She'd like to take she'd like to step down from being chair.
So,
And all I'm saying is for you to step into it.
Hmm.
I would say Marilyn step into it, since she's been
or for
vice
chair.
to chair. Oh, yeah, so Marilyn to take from vice chair into chair.
The nomination on vice chairperson Marilyn Borja to serve as chair. On that nomination, do you accept?
I'm just gonna be transparent, just due to some extreme, obligations, both personally and, professionally. I'm completely committed to this board and will continue to be last year I was just, extended another, 4 or 5 years, but, I just feel that with the momentum and what the Ethics Commission deserves and what needs from a commissioner. I want to be able to give 110%, and I will in my capacity as a commissioner. But just respectfully, I'm going to have to just put that out. So I think the commission deserves, yes. And again, respectfully decline, but thank you so much for, I think that's just the organic way to do it, but we've not had an organic last 2 semesters because of COVID. But Jesse and the team and everyone here has my 100%, what do you call that, commitment as a commissioner. But again, I think with what we need for the momentum, I think what could be delivered. And just using examples, if I may,
Yeah.
Jesse, the trips that you guys were able to take, I would not have been in that capacity to do. For example, so things like that, I don't want to prohibit, right? The support and stuff. So on those reasons, are my, just to be transparent with you guys. And I did appreciate you guys like willingly and, being able to do that so quickly. And I think that's exactly what we need from a chair and a vice chair.
Will do. Thank you so much for that. Since the nominee had rejected that nomination, again, the floor is still open. Is there any other nomination for the position of chair?
I nominate Commissioner Christopher Cruz, board chair.
On the nomination, Commissioner Cruz, do you accept?
I accept.
Are there any other nominations on the floor? If there are no other nominations, is there a motion to close nominations for chair?
I'll make a motion to close.
Okay, that was first by Vice Chair Borja, second by Commissioner Jack. Okay, on that motion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Right.
All opposed, it has been passed unanimously. The nominations are now closed for chair. On the question of electing Commissioner Christopher Cruz to chairperson for the Guam Ethics Commission, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Okay, it's been majority vote. The new chairman for the Guam Ethics Commission rather, is Commissioner Christopher Cruz. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Right, now to the position of vice chairperson. The interim presiding officer will take any motion or nomination rather for vice chair.
I'll respect all.
Go ahead.
Are we partners over here? Again, on my comment that I said earlier, I was really, just impressed and moved by the willingness for Meg and Chris to attend that conference, and then just getting that feedback as we went along. I admired that and I appreciated that. So I'm gonna make a nomination for Meg. Just naturally, again, I think the two of you had, you were excited about that, and I think that's just indicative of other things. Not just that particular instance, but I think just in general, and having been part of the original crew, I think that makes sense for a new era of chairs and vice chairs. So I make a recommendation for Commissioner Tinkle to serve as.
Thank you. Commissioner Technical, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Great. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, is there a motion to close nominations for vice chairperson?
I second.
First by Commissioner Dr. Jack, second by Chairman Cruz. Okay, on that motion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Now the question of the election of vice chair, all those in favor of Commissioner Mengtakenko, please signify by raising your hand. It's been unanimously adopted. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that concludes the election of officers, and I would love to turn the floor over to our now chair, Chairman Cruz, to take us back to old business. Thank you again, Vice Chair and Acting Chair, for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if I can get a motion now, do I need a motion to go back into old business or? do you know? No, right, because we originally moved, okay. All right, so item number 4 on our agenda is old business. The review and approve FY 2024 budget request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have updated the budget document to reflect the changes incorporated at today's meeting. This is inclusive of a number of things. Primarily, we modified the positions that we were recruiting for to reflect ethics, from ethics program coordinator to the ethics investigation and compliance officer. We also did a recruitment of an administrative assistant in lieu of one ethics program coordinator. And then we adjusted the salaries that were adopted just at today's meeting. So I have passed out to you the new budget digest or summary for the commission's request. And again, we are looking at the general fund appropriations to the commission. You'll find the fiscal year 2022 in expenditures, what was authorized in fiscal year 23 under column B, and then column C is what the commission hopes to request for. So I'm pleased to share that following those adoptions at this meeting, the commission's request will decrease from $585,000, which was adopted at its December meeting, to $544,177. So the request that I have for the commission is to adopt the revised budget request and to transmit it to Senator Joe Sanana, City Chair of the Committee on Appropriations.
Director, if I may,
Yes, of course.
how did you trim that request down?
Excellent question. So once we knew what the paid positions were following the Hay study, those amounts reflected accordingly. And so we were able to make adjustments. Where we were once adjusting for Social Security contributions, we received guidance from BBMR that it's either the government retirement system or Social Security. We were funding both. So there was no need to fund the Social Security contribution. So that provided for some savings. And then when we replaced, the biggest savings came from replacing an ethics program coordinator 1, which is paid at $40,000 per annum, to an admin assistant paid $30,000 per annum. That provided significant savings, not just for the base salary, but for the insurance that follows that.
So your request at this point is for us to adopt this revised budget, correct?
Correct. And have it reflective of the new position titles just approved by the commission. And the changes in the personnel, and then of course the salary adjustments that were also approved at today's meeting.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the revised budget?
I think it's the first one we've gone through, so the fact that it's
Yeah.
reduced.
Can I get a motion to adopt the revised budget as indicated by our director?
I'll give a motion to adopt the budget according to these numbers of the secure.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? I didn't even vote. I'm sorry. I voted in favor. Any opposed? Okay, any further discussion? All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
So this just to be submitted, right? And then it's at the discretion of the.
Legislature what we got. Of course, the commission still has the opportunity and we continue to receive the fees that are collected through ethics training. So that will only augment whatever is eventually approved by the Guam legislature. All right, thank you. And that concludes all the items under old business and new business, Mr. Chair. I believe the next is under confidential matter or closed proceedings. At this time, Mr. Chair, we could get a motion to move into closed proceedings.
Sure, can I get a motion to move into closed proceedings?
Do we need to wait for?
Oh, yeah,
Jack?
yeah, we need a.
There's no voting, so I believe you have
Should be
to
okay.
vote now, just to at least move and hear the
Oh, okay.
cases, but it won't be.
All right.
I should be back in a second.
You'll be okay.
I move to go to close proceedings.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, move into closed proceedings? Aye. Any opposed? Any further discussion?
Good.
All right, so motion carries unanimously. We are now in closed proceedings.
Stand by, commissioners, while and then just So we'll just ask the motion to go back into the regular session.
Sure, can I get a motion to resume our regular session?
Motion to resume our regular session?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, we are back in regular session.
So that concludes every item under closed proceedings. The next item on the agenda is.
Do we have any announcements?
I do have one since we were talking about Como a lot. They've already announced the location and they've opened up reservations for hotel rooms. So if I might ask if any commissioner is interested in attending this upcoming conference, could you share with me so that the office can make the proper arrangements? They do sell fast for the rooms and want to hold it. Yes, it's December 3rd to the 6th. It'll be in Kansas City, Missouri. And since the Kansas City Chiefs made the Super Bowl, stuff that's like a very library.
Still in December.
We'll see if they December 3rd through the 6th.
Oh, not that you have time to do anything there, but
It sounds like it's the same time, huh?
yeah, pretty
Like,
much.
I know that they said that they always try for the first week of December.
Yes.
Because that's almost immediately
It was
following
fourth, yeah.
national election.
It was 4th to 7th.
Oh, okay.
It was 4th to 7th last
We
year,
left,
but
we
it's
left.
probably-
on the-
Calling it
Yeah,
the
that's
same thing,
right.
like the Friday.
That's right.
or whatever.
So please do share that with us and we'll be happy to include you in the reservation.
All right, awesome, thank you, Director. Any other announcements? All right, hearing no more announcements, can I get a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned at 1:56 PM. Thank you. Unanimous. Carried unanimously. It's so easy for me to monitor that. Yeah, there you go, Dr. Jack, please.
Congratulations.